Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade and Low Effort Sunday. And I thought the lowest of effort, I would bring you this job posting that somebody sent me, some stupid recruiter bot sent me. And it's to underscore something that I've seen a lot over the last couple of years, but I've seen all the way back, 17 years in my professional career now. And that is just ridiculous, ridiculous job postings that companies put out there expecting somebody to fill. I don't know who they think is going to fill a posting like this, but we see all these whiny crybaby CEOs and they're always saying, we just can't find employees. Nobody wants to work anymore. And there's this guy, I think his name is Greg Hayes. He's the CEO of Raytheon. And, Raytheon posted some not great numbers to their quarterly report a while back. And he went and made the media blitz on all the stupid financial talk shows, basically playing the world's tiniest violin, saying that, well, I wouldn't have failed so bad as a CEO this quarter, except that we have a lot of work we'd like to do, but we just can't find people to do it. We can't find people to hire. And so when I saw this come into my mailbox a couple days ago, I thought, yeah, this one is comedy gold. So let's take a look at this job. The salary, and first off, it's not even a salary. It's a contract position. So it's not a salary. It's an hourly wage that you're getting. You're not getting a salary. But they're advertising $50 to $55 an hour. And so let's think about this. A normal labor year has kind of about 50 weeks, and you work about 40 hours a week, or you bill that many at least. And so that's about 2,000 labor hours in a year. And so at $50 to $55 an hour, that's an equivalent top line of somewhere around $100,000 to $110,000 a year in pay. But the problem is this is a contract position. And so what that means in America is you have no benefits, you get no insurance, you get no holidays, you get no vacation, you get no retirement matching funds, you get nothing. All you get is the $50 to $55 an hour. And so everything else you have to provide for yourself. And so we have this insane system in the US where our health insurance is tied to our employer. And what it means is that if you're directly employed as, say, a salaried person, your employer will provide you with an insurance plan, but they will also pay part of the cost, and the amount just depends on a whole lot of things. But if you're a contract person like this position is advertising, then you are going to pay all of your costs. And even worse, you are going to be participating basically in the public marketplace of insurance plans, which means you're not in an advantageous risk pool. And so you're going to pay a higher rate for your insurance than you otherwise would. So you can imagine if you took the qualifications that are listed below, which we'll go over in a minute, they're comedy gold. If you had those qualifications and you went to any of, say, the big four aerospace firms in the US, being Boeing, Northrop, Lockheed, and Raytheon, if you went to any of those four, you're going to be in a giant risk pool of people who have a long history of making very good decisions. I mean, just take Boeing, for example, even though Boeing as a company doesn't make very many good decisions nowadays. But Boeing has about 140,000 employees. And so when they put together their risk pool to try to find health insurance for their employees, it's 140,000 people, basically zero of which can have a significant criminal history. 100% of which need to have college degrees, sometimes advanced degrees, degrees in very difficult subjects. And so it's basically filtering out to create this risk pool that is full of people who have long histories of making very good decisions, which if you're a medical insurance coverer, is what you look for. And so you can get very advantageous rates through companies like that. But if you take this contract position, you're on your own. You ain't nobody. And so you're going to pay a much higher rate for the same insurance. Okay. So the other thing is when you work for an employer in a full-time job in the US, we have this thing called the payroll tax. And basically it's about a 15% tax. And in true, like, obscuring political fashion, half of it comes directly out of your paycheck and your employer pays the other half. But your employer has to take into account when they're opening that job position and wanting to hire someone that that's an expense that comes along with hiring that person. It's about 7.5% of their pay that the employer will have to pay. And so they factor that in and they give you less total compensation in exchange for that half, the employer half of the payroll tax that they will have to pay. And so essentially, you as the employee pay it because you get a lower overall total compensation because part of it is the government reaching into the employer's pocket for 7.5% of your wage and then reaching into your paycheck for 7.5% of your wage. Now, that's if you're a direct employee of a company. But if you take a position like this and you're a contract employee, you pay that whole 15% out of your pocket. So the second line here says 6-month contract to perm, meaning you're going to be on this contract for maybe 6 months. If everything works out, if it doesn't get canceled, there's no guarantees, if they like you. And at the end of that 6 months, maybe they'll make you a permanent employee. Maybe they won't. What are the terms of that permanent employment? Who knows? Maybe they'll be completely undesirable and something you would never accept. You have no guarantees, you have no promises, nothing. And so let's say you work for the 6 months as a contractor in this position. 6 months, that's about 25 weeks at about 40 labor hours a week. So that's about 1,000 hours. So you will gross top line somewhere between $50,000 and $55,000 working this position for 1,000 hours over 6 months. Now, the government's going to come in, and because you are a contract employee, you do not have an employer in between you and the government, they're going to reach into your paycheck for a whole 15%, that entire payroll tax they're going to take from your paycheck. And so 15% of $50,000 is $7,500. So $7,500 right off the top for employee payroll tax. And yeah, there are, when you do your taxes at the end of the year, there are deductions and other things. You'll get part of that back depending on how much you made and everything. But off the top line, immediately $7,500. So then you have to go out, you have to buy your own insurance, again, at higher rates. You have to buy your own health insurance. Do you want life insurance? Are you married and you want your wife and potentially your kids to not be poor if you drop dead one day? Well, then you better be buying your own life insurance. But again, you're not in an advantageous risk pool of people who have histories of making good decisions. And so you get to buy it on your own at a higher rate. And all of these expenses add up. These are significant things when we're talking about the difference between direct employment and contract employment for professional positions in the U.S. Yeah, and we're not even past line 2 yet. And so all of these things will add up disadvantageously against this. And so the third line here, you must come in with an active secret clearance. So let me explain what this really means in the U.S., right? So we have these aerospace firms and they have all these positions and they require secret clearances because you occasionally deal with classified information. And so the value of a secret clearance in the US, bare minimum, is about $10,000. And the reason for that is that if you get hired by one of the big aerospace firms and it's for a position that requires a secret clearance, but you don't have one to start with, the company will pay about $10,000 to the US government as the cost for getting you that clearance, because there's all kinds of background checks and things. There's occasionally interviews and all kinds of data they have to verify and all kinds of work they have to do. And that work requires manpower, and that manpower costs money. And so it costs about $10,000 for one of the big aerospace companies to get one of their employees a secret clearance. And now a top secret clearance will be about $30,000. And what this means is that if you are in the aerospace industry in the US and you have an active clearance and you're switching employers, you should always expect and you should always get, bar none, without exception, you should always get at least a $10,000 signing bonus for walking in with a secret clearance, because it means it's $10,000 that employer, that new employer you're going to, is not going to have to spend to get you that clearance. And additionally, if you did not have a clearance, they wouldn't just be spending the $10,000 to get you the clearance. They would be spending some amount of money in terms of lost opportunity, finding you other less valuable work to do for the time period it takes for that clearance to actually process and for it to get to you so you could start doing the work that occasionally handles classified data. So if you have an active secret clearance, you should be demanding at least a $10,000 signing bonus. And this one does not require a top secret, but if you have a top secret clearance, that bonus should be $30,000. And so you will, though, occasionally, and right now is one of those times, you will find the big four aerospace companies in the US paying up to $30,000 signing bonuses for the right people in the right positions with a regular secret clearance. That is something you see right now today. And especially for software jobs, which if we can ever get past line 3, this is a software job. And so really this job should have somewhere to be competitive in the marketplace, not even talking about how uncompetitive it is in terms of salary and benefits, but just competitiveness on signing bonus to what the industry is currently at. This should have somewhere between a $10,000 and $30,000 signing bonus attached to it because it's expecting you to walk in with an active secret clearance. So the third thing, location, Dayton, Ohio. Nobody wants to live in Dayton, Ohio. Nobody wants to move to Dayton, Ohio. And especially software people. Almost all software work can be done from anywhere in the world. It does not need to be in an office, and companies are going to continue to have problems filling these roles until they realize that they need to start hiring people who live remotely. And I see a lot of positions where the role is mostly work from home. Let's say it's advertised as 80 or 90% work from home. And what it means is they want the ability for you to occasionally come into the office. It's not required in order to get the work done, but they just want to clutch on to that little bit of control for as long as they can. And because of that, it requires that you be physically, geographically located near the actual office. And so I'm seeing a lot of companies in this industry that are having difficulty finding candidates, especially for software jobs, because they're requiring, even if you don't ever have to come into the office, they want you physically living close to the place. And it's just not reasonable because there are a lot of companies hiring software engineers that are not requiring that. They don't care if you go to Malta for a month, as long as you get your work done. You don't need to be physically located for these other companies. But again, this company, since it's a secret clearance required, you're probably handling stuff in a classified space. And so you need to be physically located, but it's Dayton, Ohio. Nobody wants to move to Dayton, Ohio. I bet most people living in Dayton, Ohio don't want to live in Dayton, Ohio. So, that's another giant hurdle they're trying to overcome with this posting. So required qualifications, bachelor's degree and 2 years experience in computer science, computer engineering, or related fields. So let's just talk about this. First off, if you're at $50 to $55 hourly contracting rate and we wanted to just kind of translate, what does that kind of mean if you were a salaried employee? If you're a salaried employee and you make X dollars per year on your salary, you can, just as a very vague rule of thumb, multiply that at about another 30%. And that's what your total value of compensation is once you include things like 401k matching, holidays, sick days, vacation days, insurance, and other benefits. So you'll get about another 30% pay on top of what just your salary that you get as a paycheck, and that's your top line salary. So, even this job here where it's somewhere around $100,000 a year, if you were to take this job as just contract work, all you will get is $100,000. If you have a bachelor's degree and 2 years of experience in computer science, and you're walking into one of the big four aerospace firms today with 2 years of experience in computer science, you're going to be commanding bare minimum $90,000 to $120,000. And then you're going to add 30% on top of that for all the other fringe benefits that sum into your total compensation package. And so this job posting saying, we'll just pay you $100,000. That's all we'll pay you, $100,000 equivalent for 2,000 hours a year of labor at $50 an hour. So $100,000 equivalent, no benefits, no holiday, no vacation, no insurance, no 401k matching. And you have to move to Dayton, Ohio. And if you want any of that insurance, you're going to pay more for it than you otherwise would because you're just a single nobody. You're not part of an advantageous risk pool. Then you're going to get $100,000. And like I said, if you go into any of the big firms in the US today as a direct hire, a full employee, you're going to be making 90 to 120,000 is about the range for 0 to 2 years of experience in these subjects. And then you're going to get another 30% on top of that. So you're going to be looking at a total compensation maybe reaching up into $160,000 a year. And that's not even to talk about what you can achieve if you're willing to move to the San Francisco Bay Area and live in a van. And so the kind of salaries you can get out there. So if you want to live in Tulsa, Oklahoma and have a cruddy apartment, but live by yourself and not have roommates and not live in a van, you can make $90,000 to $120,000 a year doing a job like this. You might even be fully remote. You might live in Tulsa, Oklahoma because the cost of living is dirt cheap. And you may choose to be doing that. But if you were willing to do something like move to the San Francisco Bay Area and live in a van, then, you can maybe make mid 150s with 2 years experience, maybe more. And again, you'll have that 30% additional value of compensation on top for all the benefits. So understand just how low this offer actually is for what they're looking for. Candidate must possess current clearance. We talked about that. Working knowledge of aircraft systems, navigation, and cockpit instrumentation. Do you think those are valuable skills? I'll tell you, those are really valuable skills. If you understand how aircraft system work, how aircraft navigate, how that works with the cockpits, with all the other boxes on an aircraft, how all that stuff integrates together, how it interfaces with the pilot. If you have that kind of experience, those are valuable skills. That's very valuable knowledge that aerospace companies will pay for. Experience with simulation software techniques, gaming engine experience could translate. So yeah, again, that's very valuable hands-on experience that they're looking for that not everyone has. It's difficult to get outside of working jobs like this. And so the pool of candidates available that have this kind of experience is very small. And again, they're offering $50 an hour with no benefits. And you may be kicked out on your butt after 6 months. Technical expertise in computer programming languages such as C, C++, Java, or similar. Yeah. So again, this is the kind of thing where in the US, in the aerospace industry or just in tech or just any industry, if you have technical expertise in programming languages, yeah, you write your own checks. And you don't need to take a job paying $50 an hour with no benefits that might kick you out on your butt after 6 months and require you to move to Dayton, Ohio to take it. Requires vision and creativity. I hate these kind of lines in job postings because there's no way to measure them and they mean nothing. Experience with virtualization and containerization techniques in developing microservice architecture systems. Again, this is just more very valuable skills that software developers will tend to have that will make them very valuable and that will command those kind of 90 to 120K minimum salaries for 2 years of experience in it. And then there's a bunch of pie in the sky responsibilities that you'll need to be able to do. And so keep in mind, if this is a 6-month contract and they get to the end of the 6 months and they say, we don't like you, you don't work well enough, you're not a good fit on the team, the program's been canceled, there's not enough money to keep paying you. Any of these decisions, and they kick you out on your butt after 6 months, not only have you had to move to Dayton, Ohio, now you have to pay to move somewhere else for your next opportunity. And so can you do that on 1,000 labor hours at $50 an hour, plus you pay your 15% payroll tax yourself, and then you pay for any of your insurance you want to have, you pay all your living expenses, everything else, and essentially you have to potentially pay to move twice. Once to middle of nowhere Dayton, Ohio that nobody wants to live at, and once again at the end of it to move to your next opportunity. And so, these are the kind of things I see all the time. I see job positions like this where it's like, who writes this? How disconnected from reality and from the actual industry is anyone who puts this job rec out there and expects to get any type of feedback at all? What kind of person could possibly do this job? And I don't just mean like squint and pretend and stretch their skills and work really hard and manage to barely achieve this job. I mean anyone who could actually perform this job and would take $50 an hour with not even a guarantee of 1,000 labor hours. There's no guarantee on a position like this that they keep you past one day. And so maybe you'll get 1,000 labor hours out of it. You'll make $50,000, and 7,500 of that you better be ready to pay on quarterly taxes to the federal government for the payroll taxes. And then beyond that, you have no benefits, no time off, nothing. You have to move to Dayton, Ohio. And these clown CEOs will get up on TV and say, we just can't find people. We just can't find candidates. We don't know where no one wants to work anymore. And I wouldn't be such a failure of a CEO, and I wouldn't have posted such bad numbers this quarter if only I could find people to work for such paltry amounts compared to the skills that we demand they bring to the table. And so, yeah, there are problems. There are lots of people who don't want to work. Attitudes towards work have changed considerably since 2020. That's its own topic, and that's a real problem in and of itself. But when you see job postings like this that are just whimsical, and whimsical doesn't even get to the dizzying heights of delusion that somebody has to be living in to write and post a job rec like this and expect to get any type of response, and much less get anyone who's even remotely capable of doing the work. It's crazy. But here's where we are, and I see things like this a couple times a week. I see job posts like this, just absolutely nutty. And, keep this kind of thing in mind, that the next time you see some idiot CEO up on CNBC saying, we just can't find workers, nobody wants to work anymore, keep in mind that this is some decent percentage of the type of job postings that I see out there right now. Who wants to move to Dayton, Ohio, bring a valuable security clearance with you, and then make paltry money, get no benefits, pay more for all your insurance, and maybe not even be guaranteed to still have a job after 6 months? Who wants that? Nobody. Nobody who brings even half of these qualifications to the table would ever take this job. But here we are, and it gives CEOs cover to say, nobody wants to work anymore. We can't find employees. Yeah, you can't find them at this kind of pay for these kind of requirements. That's your problem. So I know, incredibly off topic for the channel, but I saw this and I thought, I'll film a low effort Sunday on it, and I'll throw it in the queue, and it'll get published eventually. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know that YouTube gives me some demographics about who watches my channel, and I think this will appeal to a lot of people on my channel. Probably are seeing similar things in their professional careers and their industries. And yeah, it's a bad joke is really what it is. So let me know what you think. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Join me on Final Trade. Thanks a lot, guys.